So a recent poll has come out showing President Barack Obama's favorability numbers continuing to decrease. And so O'Reilly's going to talk about, on his show, about how liberals are getting angry at this. Well, let's watch.
Half the country now disapprove of the job President Obama is doing, according to a new Quinnipiac poll. That has angered some of the president's most ardent supporters who are standing by their man, believing he is misunderstood. But when asked what his accomplishments have been, there's really only one thing the left can point to: Obamacare. And that might be overturned by the Supreme Court this month. On all of the fronts, the president's tenure has been mediocre at best. Now, no one likes to think the person they vote for is a failure. When President Bush got into trouble over Iraq and the economy, many on the right continued to defend him. They were angry about all the criticism. Same thing with Barack Obama. His supporters are furious that his administration is now being perceived as kind of a failure.
Okay, no, wait a minute here. O'Reilly is trying to say, the left is so furious that Barack Obama is just terrible. You know who's and you know what we're furious about? That Obama and a lot of his policies aren't to the left enough. In fact, a lot of Americans are getting angry over the whole NSA thing. Like, hey, maybe we don't want the government spying in on us. That kind of puts people, I don't know, it kind of puts people off, We don't view that very favorably when they're spying in on our email. The same thing with trade deals. A lot of Americans think that, trade deals are fine, but they don't protect jobs very well. And there's another poll out saying that. So now let's talk about where President Obama is on the issues. Now, he pointed out, Obamacare, that's one of his only successes. Okay, there's been some other successes. We've reduced the deficit, for one, by a lot. Now, for me, I don't think that that's one of the most important issues, but I suppose it's a success since we are spending less now and racking up as much less of a debt than we did under George W. Bush. Okay, so there's some positive gains here. We've had some positive gains, but apparently I'm just furious because Barack Obama is terrible. So let's go to some of the issues in this poll and dig down into some of the numbers. Now, when it comes to the economy, 53% of Americans disapprove of the job Obama's doing on the economy. Well, okay, that's fair enough. What about ISIS? 63% of Americans disapprove of the job Obama's doing on ISIS. Apparently, we're not bombing them enough. Okay. Now, what about race relations? Now, Fox News is going to tell you race relations under Obama have gotten worse. Well, still, 50% of Americans still approve of the job President Obama's doing on race relations. Interesting. Now, what about climate change? 49% say they disapprove of what Obama's doing on climate change. Well, what has Obama done on climate change? Almost nothing. In fact, he just recently opened up, certain places for coal mining. And he started wanting to drill into the Arctic. Not only that, but he's given leases, of course, to different oil companies to be able to drill in the Gulf of Mexico, where we had the Deepwater Horizon spill or disaster. So not so great on the economy or on the environment. Illegal immigration. Well, most Americans want a pathway to citizenship. So the numbers were 60% disapprove of President Barack Obama's job on immigration. Makes sense. And of course, surveillance. Americans, 67% say that they disapprove on surveillance of United States citizens. They do not want the government watching them and going through their emails and collecting their phone calls and their metadata. If that's something to be furious about, I mean, that is something to be furious about. If anybody's going to be furious about anything, it would be that. So that makes sense. Healthcare, disapprove, 54%. Probably because they used a Republican plan and not a single-payer option. Foreign affairs, 55%. Terrorism, 51%. All disapproval. So there's your polls. Now Bill O'Reilly is going to make a big deal about a lot of these things. But when it comes down to how much people care, what is the most important issue facing America these days? The economy is at 22%, leading the pack. Following is education. Distant third at 13%, terrorism. 12%, healthcare. 10%, the federal budget. 8%, illegal immigration. 7%, the situation in Iraq and Syria. The stuff that they hit Obama over so much is the stuff that doesn't really matter as much to Americans. The economy is still number one. Now, how many jobs bills are they passing? Are the Republicans trying to get through? I count 0. Now, unless you want to sit there and call it a tax cut, a jobs bill, or deregulating industry, a jobs bill, which it is not. Republicans haven't really done much, which of course leads me to some of the approval for Republicans. Now, according to a Pew Research Center, they took a poll and they asked, do you approve or disapprove of the way Republicans in Congress are handling their job? 73% disapprove. Republicans in Congress are doing a terrible job. According to another Gallup poll, do you disapprove of the way Congress as a whole are handling their job? 77% are disapproving. But no. We're angry. We're furious on the left because Barack Obama is a failure. Really. I think this is projection. Bill O'Reilly and the Republicans are angry probably because moral attitudes are shifting towards the left. And if you can remember, when that poll broke, he called half of the country simpletons, essentially calling everybody stupid. Half of the country is dumb because they're not traditional. They're not embracing traditional Bill O'Reilly values. Interesting. It really is fascinating about all this projection. I've got one more clip of Bill O'Reilly as well. He's going to not just talk about Obama, but he's going to start taking some shots at Hillary Clinton as well. Let's take a look.
And then there is Hillary Clinton. According to a new CNN poll, just 42% of American adults now believe Mrs. Clinton is trustworthy. 57% she's not. Poll asks another question. Does Hillary Clinton care about people like you? 47% yes, 52% no. Finally, Mrs. Clinton's support among Democrats and independents who lean that way has dropped 9 points since April. All of that has infuriated Americans who want Mrs. Clinton to be the next president. But no amount of spin can deflect the truth. At this point, a year and a half away from the presidential vote, many Americans are turning away from Secretary Clinton. Of course, that might reverse itself. When folks get angry, they often lash out, and Talking Points believes the left will launch vicious attacks on whomever the Republican nominee will be. Committed liberals are so angry right now, so furious, that things are not going their way and their standard bearers are losing respect. They're going to attack in unprecedented ways. The smear website's already gearing up. And if the right wing replies in kind, the presidential race of 2016 will be the ugliest in American history. Get ready.
That annoys me so much. Talking Points believes... No. Talking Points isn't a thing. It's not a person. Talking Points doesn't believe anything. Bill O'Reilly believes that. Okay, so let's go on to the substance of this, if there is any. He's talking about Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is losing support from the left. Maybe that's perhaps because she has a challenger who is actually a progressive, Bernie Sanders. Now, Bill O'Reilly is not going to point out Bernie Sanders because Bill O'Reilly and Fox News are afraid of Bernie Sanders. They won't give him any airtime. They won't even show that he exists in this race now, because he's beginning to be a serious contender and a serious spot for, his polls are rising, okay, and Hillary Clinton's starting to decrease. Among some of the things for her, of course, selling weapons to other countries that donated to the Clinton Foundation. That's kind of a major scandal. That's a little bit of a thing. And there's also other things that are plaguing Hillary, a lot of which you don't hear the right wing tend to talk about. But there are significant problems with Hillary Clinton and with her not being, of course, progressive enough. Bill O'Reilly's not going to mention that because Bill O'Reilly, of course, has an agenda.